Welcome to the Academic Writing Amplified podcast. On this podcast, we believe that the culture of academia needs to change radically. Women and non-binary people are revolutionizing academia within institutions that were not built for us. If you're ready to reject the culture of overwork, kick guilt and overwhelm to the curb, and amplify your voice to make a real impact on your field without breaking down or burning out, you're in the right place. With our team of experienced writing coaches as co-hosts, we'll share insights and talk to inspiring guests to bring you the practical strategies, systems, and mindset shifts you need to find time to write, publish work you love, and design your career on your terms. And it all starts with writing. Let's go. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Academic Writing Amplified podcast. I'm your host, Kathy Mazak from Scholar's Voice. I'm holed up in my cozy living room today on a rare day that my whole family is not in the house with me and that it's raining. So it feels like kind of particularly appropriate to be talking about the role of writing retreats in what I call my Soaring System, which is the way that I teach how to create a nourishing and sustainable writing practice. So it feels almost a little retreaty here. I'm watching like the mist through the tropical forest. It's really nice. And I'm ready to dig into writing retreats with you. So I'm going to start by talking about what I mean by the Soaring System. So those of you who have taken my Navigate program in more recent years, or I also have like plenty of podcast episodes about this. The Soaring System is the way that I brand, the name that I came up with for how I teach creating what I call a sustainable relationship-based writing practice. So I'm just going to explain to you, in case you're a new listener, what the Soaring System is, and then I'm going to talk about the role of writing retreats in that system. Now, if you're thinking, oh, writing retreats, that sounds nice, but I can't do writing retreats for XYZ reason, I encourage you to continue listening to the podcast anyway, although it's totally up to you. That way you can hear like how writing retreats fit in. And also I'm going to be talking about, as I have on the podcast before, so definitely check out the back catalog, me talking about like, why do writing retreats work? You don't have to spend a ton of money or leave for a long time. You can do basically a free version. I have a whole podcast on how to create a writing retreat for yourself. So the understanding the role of the writing retreat in the academic life, I think, is also really important. So hang on for a good episode, I hope. Okay, so let's start with what is the Soaring System. So as I mentioned, the Soaring System is just my branded way or my unique way or my name for what I call a relationship-based writing practice, the structured writing practice that I teach in my Navigate program. So the foundation of the Soaring System. So let me explain the metaphor. Okay. So soaring is about what the metaphor is. You're picturing a bird in flight, or maybe even like a hang glider. And you are imagining that bird as kind of floating on invisible currents of energy. So this is not the bird who is taking off, right? Flapping, desperately to get up in the air. This is a bird that is in the air and doesn't have to flap hard to keep aloft. Okay, so that is the image of soaring that I want to put. That's the metaphor that I'm working with. And what I want is for your writing sessions to feel that way. Okay, so the opposite of that soaring feeling in a writing session, I call slogging. So soaring versus slogging. Slogging is like tramping through mud in wet boots where it's like hard to lift each foot, right? That's the metaphor for slogging. And a lot of times, because we are putting writing at the periphery of our careers and it's getting our little scraps of time, when we finally get down to write, we have a slogging feeling during the writing session. And what happens when that happens is that you end up having like going in like a negative reinforcement spiral. So you have a sloggy writing session. You don't get many words on the page. You delete a lot of what you've written. It feels bad. And then you continue to give it scraps of your time. You don't want to sit down to do it because you are avoiding that feeling. You're trying to avoid that feeling. The other side is if we can engineer writing sessions to feel like they are soaring, like you have a common word for this is flow, right? That you have that soaring feeling that things are just coming out, that the writing flows, that, you know, you're making progress, words are getting on the page, ideas are sparking. If you have that feeling during writing sessions, you will have a positive feeling and there's a positive feedback loop. You're going to want to do it again and again. And then you are going to be more likely to make the time to write, to get it on your calendar, to keep those appointments because you know that you can engineer that soaring feeling for yourself. And then writing is fun, or at least it's not fun, but like enriching and juicy and nice. So why is my writing system called a soaring system? Because what I just explained, the soaring versus slogging, is the foundational idea. And then we actually build on top of that using other writing techniques. And you can picture like a pyramid. When I teach this in my Navigate program, there's a diagram. It kind of looks like an Illuminati kind of thing. Like it's like a pyramid with a swoopy thing in the back. The pyramid has the foundation of soaring sessions, I call them, which are writing sessions that have that soaring feeling. And then up to the next level and up to the next level are different tools. And at the top of that pyramid is our topic for today, which is writing retreats. The swoopy thing in the background, or all of that sits nested in an understanding of goal setting, of your own motivation, and tracking. So all of these different pieces work together to create a sustainable writing system that at its core is based on you having a positive relationship with your writing. Let me just speak once again to that foundation, the soaring versus slogging, that soaring sessions foundation. I've said this many times on the podcast before, but what we are looking to create as the foundation for the whole writing system is 1 to 2 writing sessions once or twice a week that are engineered for soaring. Okay. Now, in the program, I teach these different ways to engineer for soaring, but I'll give you like the short version. The short version is that you engineer for soaring by placing the writing sessions at a time of day that is your best time of day. This is related to putting writing at the center, manipulating and engineering your schedule so that your writing is happening at your best times of day instead of whenever you can fit it in around your teaching and meetings. That writing takes that center stage, and it takes some time to change your schedule so that that happens. And it also takes reflection and insight into when is that best time of day for you. And is that a consistent thing in your life? It might not be for a lot of factors, but for many people, you know, and if you don't know, with just a little observation, you can figure out when is that best time of day, that time of day where you naturally have a lot of energy and a lot of focus. You know, like for me, the example I always give is myself, which is that between 8 and 11 in the morning, I can get so much done. And then, you know, 11 to 12 is okay, but 1 to 2 is a serious slump. So I can't try to write, or especially try to start writing at that time in my normal everyday life, because I will slog consistently every time. I have a little second wind later in the day, but usually that's family time, so I don't often write during my little second wind time. So anyway, that's one method to create soaring because of many different reasons that might not work for you. An alternative way to create soaring is through co-writing, where when we're writing together with other people, either in person or online, we're in community and we can kind of lean on each other and support each other in our soaring. We get energy because of the co-writing. So those are just two ways. There's other things to do, but just wanted to present that kind of like the very, I think 5 minute, maybe it took me 10 minutes version of the soaring system. Okay. This is something we dig into in the Navigate program. It's 12 weeks long. We spend 2 weeks on the soaring system just to give you like a sense of how long learning it takes. And of course, practicing it is a whole other thing that takes more time, as developing any practice does. Okay, so the foundation of the soaring system is that 1 to 2 hours, 1 to 2 times a week of writing in your soaring state. Now, like I mentioned, we stack other tools on top of that base. So we want you first to establish that base and then stack other writing tools on top of that. One of those is writing sprints. We have a kind of proprietary way to teach writing sprints that a lot of our clients love and use. And then writing retreats. That is like if the foundation of 1 to 2 times a week, 1 to 2 hours, 1 to 2 times a week is the weekly part. The writing retreats is once a year or twice a year, like rare, right? So how do writing retreats fit into like a writing practice and why? For a lot of people, it might sound like something kind of like, oh, that would be lovely. I could never pull it off. So hopefully today I'm going to change your mind about that, but we'll see. So obviously, as academics, we have to juggle a lot of things. All right. We are always doing teaching, research, and service. Even if we were just doing research, we would still be juggling multiple projects in multiple stages. We would be juggling mentoring, maybe writing with students, collaborating on projects, writing grants that we can get data so that we can write up works that can get published. Like all of those things, every single one of them is its own job. And we continue to do all of these jobs together. So we have to juggle, we have to manage a lot of things. Retreats are for getting the headspace and time that you desire. Because while we are working on all of these things, your brain, maybe your heart, is asking you, like, could I just work on one thing? And maybe there's a particular project that right now you can think of that's kind of calling you. It's like, man, if I had a week, I could really make some amazing progress. And I want to unleash my brain fully on that project, but I can't because I have to, manage so many multiple projects. So retreats are a way to alleviate that, I have to work on so many things at one time feeling. Not the only way, but it's a very, very effective way because retreats do all of these things that I'm now going to list for you. When you're on a retreat, it reduces decision fatigue. So when you're at home or you're in your office and all of your projects are available to you as possibilities of what you could work on, you have to decide in every moment which one of those projects you're going to be working on. When you go on a retreat, however, you can choose one project and you can kind of say to yourself, on this retreat, I'm going to work on this one thing. And you can kind of quiet all the other things. A simple example is when you go on a writing retreat, you should have an email autoresponder on so that you're not expected to answer emails while you're on the retreat. And you don't have to say that you're on a writing retreat. You can just say, I'm unavailable for this week. I'll be checking messages on this day. And that's it. You close the email app and you do not check it. You normally wouldn't do that during a regular week in the semester or a regular week in your life, right? But a retreat kind of gives you this reason to do that. Retreats also help remove the kind of immediate day-to-day caretaking responsibilities, I would say, of caretaking of both yourself and of others, pets, humans, whoever else you take care of, or even whatever else you take care of, right? Like, so as I'm sitting here recording this podcast, I'm looking at my floor that needs to be swept. I'm looking at my table that needs to be cleared. And those things are always kind of like calling to me and taking energy away. When I go on a writing retreat, it's not my responsibility to sweep the floor, nor to clear the table. So I have those things that you might, that kind of do like, it's like a low humming in your mind that gets cleared. So that is starting to alleviate or like release more focus and attention from your brain. It turns away from those things because they're not there because you're on a retreat. I mean, that's not even talking about, if you're a parent or if you're a caretaker of anybody else, that when you're on a retreat, you're not doing that, at least not in the immediate everyday, like, mom, get me a sandwich kind of thing. Retreats work because they reduce your decision fatigue and they remove immediate caretaking responsibilities. Also, they work because you remove yourself from the everyday. And something I loved about this book, I think I talked about it on my book recommendations podcast episode, which was the one like right before Christmas, I think. But I read this book by Laura Vanderkam called Off the Clock. And it's kind of like a treatise on time. And one of the things she talks about that I absolutely experienced, but that I never had like the vocabulary for or never understood it, is why we can remember so clearly, like when we took this vacation, but we can't remember like what we did yesterday. And she says that it's because when you are in like your everyday routine, so like for me, alarm goes off at 6:10, get out of bed at 6:20. By 7 o'clock, I'm supposed to be driving kids to school. Then I come back home and start my workday. So that the drive to school, because it is the same every day, it just gets conflated and the brain doesn't remember the specific, even though you're doing it 50 times, it's just like one time. It doesn't have any specialness to it because it is part of this kind of everyday cadence and everyday routine. It's the same route that we take. I come back to the same house, I sit in the same chair, and the brain just conflates all of that. But when you are in a new place, as when one is on vacation or at a conference, let's say, it's like time almost slows. So you might have had that experience before, right? Where you go on vacation and it feels like the time slows because you're just remembering, or you're able to experience every moment because it's not just like cookie cutter copies of previous moments. It's all new. And so time expands and it feels longer. Of course, at the end of your vacation, it's like, where did it go? But those vacation memories really like stick in your head. And same thing happens with writing retreats. So a writing retreat is not a vacation, although it can be absolutely a restorative break. Vacations aren't always those, right? But it can be a restorative break. But it's similar in the sense that you are out of your everyday. You break your everyday routine. And so time feels like it slows and it becomes more memorable. And then that experience of the writing retreat lasts. It persists in your memory, even as you go back to your foundational soaring state writing. So removing yourself from the everyday, physically going to another place, taking the time to travel there, sleeping in a different bed, being surrounded with difference, not your same every day, really expands time and it allows new ideas to come out. Partly because you're just in a new place. So your brain is just like thinking differently, but also because of the reduction in decision-making fatigue, the reduction in those immediate caretaking responsibilities, caretaking of entities or things. And so it really feels different. You're like creating this really different moment in your life and in your work. The other reason that retreats work is that if you decide to, which I encourage you to, and when I get to talking about our upcoming retreat, I will highly encourage you to have a project in mind for that, although it's not 100% necessary. And I'll talk also about people who didn't have one project, but came to the retreat and had a great experience anyway. But by choosing one focal project, you can really reduce or eliminate that task switching that takes so much energy that is not conducive to deep work or deep thinking about your chosen writing topic. So being on a retreat reduces or eliminates that task switching and really gives you that expansive time to really dig deep, deep, deep into something that requires your academic brain. The other thing that retreats do is that they really give you, like, I put this in my notes in quotes, excuse to just write. So I don't think you need an excuse to just write, but if you do, or, like what I'm saying, like, you don't really need an excuse to just focus on one writing project for a week, but it's very hard to do that in the context of the semester or the context of your everyday. So a retreat gives us an excuse or a reason that feels justified to do that, to really say like, nope, this is the only thing I'm working on, or I'm only writing for the week. I'm not going to worry about my service obligations. I'm not going to check my email. I'm not going to advise my students. Like, all of that is getting put aside for a handful of days. And I'm just going to let my whole brain focus on my writing. That's why I think retreats work. And that's why they are part of that writing practice that I teach inside of our Navigate program, our Soaring System. Now, you can absolutely create your own retreat. And lots of our clients, like our Navigate clients, there were quite a few of them, in this round. Between the last round and now, they made a writing retreat for themselves. So they got an Airbnb, they went there to write. Okay. So that could cost under $500. If you really want to make a cheap writing retreat and you don't have and you can't leave town, if you could find just a place that is not your normal place to be, could be a conference room in somebody else's department. It could be a room in a library that you've never used before. Even if you just did that for a day, while your kid's at childcare or somebody else is taking care of your house, like your normal work day, but you physically go to a different place than normal, that can get you some of these effects for free. Okay, so that's why I wanted to really explain what the effects and advantages are, because no matter what your budget, if you can physically move yourself someplace else and hold the day, then you can get some of those advantages with no investment, or just the investment of your organizational skills to make it happen, right? And again, I have a couple of podcast episodes previously about retreats, but there's really good reasons to spend money on a retreat, on a professionally guided writing retreat. And I want to mention a dear and favorite colleague of mine, Michelle Boyd, and her company, which is called Inkwell Retreats. She exclusively does writing retreats. She has in-person, she has online, and then she also goes to universities to do them. So check out Michelle Boyd at Inkwell Retreats. Just also, I would recommend, get on her list, sign up for her email list. Unlike me, who emails constantly, she emails once a month about, and it's always really good. Like, it's like I read them, they're juicy and wonderful. She has a book as well. So check out Michelle Boyd, Boyd. She also was a guest on the podcast, so you can find her episode as well. So there's really good reasons to spend money on an academic writing retreat, like the ones that Michelle Boyd does, or the one that I am doing this summer, July 2024. So why spend money on a professionally hosted academic writing retreat? One of the reasons is it takes a lot of pressure off of you. You don't have to decide, you don't have to find the Airbnb, you don't have to, figure out how you're going to get there. You don't have to make sure there's groceries or any of those things. When you are on a professionally hosted academic writing retreat, the pressure, at least the ones that Michelle does and the ones that I do, you don't have to worry about that. We have handpicked the venue. We have made sure there is food. Okay. So those things are really important. It takes a lot of pressure off of you. The other thing about a professionally run writing retreat is that we have curated the community. So the community itself is handpicked. The community is attracted through certain marketing messages. So the listeners of this podcast, you all have some things in common. And so you already are a narrower pool of potential retreat mates. And the community that I bring together through the way that I talk about academia shares values. There's overlapping values and there's overlapping desires for what we want our careers to be like and what we want our writing and publishing to be like. So you get to be on a retreat with those people. Okay, so that community that you will find on my retreat or on one of Michelle's retreats is curated. It is vetted for you. There is also something I think really important about being guided by a professional coach. Both with Michelle's retreats and mine, there is structure. Mine are probably more lightly structured than Michelle's retreats are. But I create the structure very intentionally and based on years and years, 7 years of experience as a professional writing coach for academics. So it's intentional. I have read research literature on academic writing retreats. It's not accidental. It's very intentional. And I create that for you when you come on our retreat. So the light structure that you'll find on my retreat is very intentional and helpful for you to reach your goals. Also, I think there's something really wonderful about in-person coaching, both group and one-on-one. In my retreats, there's both. There's kind of check-in, there's straight up group coaching with a topic of the day and we dig into it together. And there's also opportunities for one-on-one coaching with me. The way I run it on the Spacious Retreat is that at least every person should get at least one half hour or so, between half an hour and an hour with me during the retreat. And we run it very, just pull me aside type of thing. We don't have a sign up or anything, at least the way I'm envisioning it. That's how we did it last year and how I plan to do it this year. So that in-person coaching where we really get to actually sit together across from each other at a little cafe table and just dig in to the things that you're facing right now and how to trust yourself more and how to organize your ideas and all of these things. In person is so much fun. We get so much done in person that is harder to do over Zoom, for example. So why spend money on a professionally hosted academic writing retreat? It takes pressure off of you because you don't have to do any of the organization or planning. You have the guidance. You benefit from the guidance of a professional coach who's curated the community, created structure for you, handpicked the venue. And there's also the joy of in-person coaching, both group and individual. So that is the role of writing retreats in the Soaring System. And as you can hear from the way I speak passionately about them, they are really important. And I think that spending money, investing in yourself and your career by going on a writing retreat is transformational. It shows yourself, it shows you and the people around you how seriously you take your writing. And that is something that spills into the whole rest of the year. So I would love to take a second and tell you about our Spacious Writing Retreat, which is happening July 19th through 24th, I believe, in Ocean Park, Puerto Rico, which is a neighborhood of San Juan. Spacious, it's called spacious, right? Because that's the feeling that I want you all to have when you come on the writing retreat. That feeling of spaciousness, of time expansion, of room to let my brain run on things and also to rest. Okay. So Spacious is for women and non-binary professors. The venue that I have chosen for the retreat last year, and we're repeating this year, is a boutique hotel in Ocean Park, which is a neighborhood of San Juan. It's a few steps from the beach. It is queer owned and run. So if you are a queer person and you're coming on this retreat, if you love to be around, they call it the dream catcher because it's like a dreamy, dreamy place. It feels like a hidden oasis, think interior courtyards, and it is so beautifully designed and just, I think, a very joyful place to be, very open and accepting. So that's something that I think is important for everyone. But I want to say specifically to any of my queer listeners, my non-binary professors who I always want to include, this is a place that you are going to feel very comfortable in. And they have a chef. We have breakfast and lunch there. There are hot drinks and things available to you all day. The chef is vegan, vegetarian. There's vegan and vegetarian options. And so what that means for me, I'm not vegan or vegetarian, but I just love kind of the interesting food options that this chef particularly comes up with for his creations in the kitchen. And he'll get to know your favorite drink and how you like it. It's lovely, lovely, lovely. Anyway, that's the Dreamcatcher. If you're interested, go follow them on Instagram to get the sense of their properties. The Dreamcatcher is a boutique hotel. We won't necessarily have the whole hotel to ourselves. We didn't last time. Last time we had 10 people come, and I think there's 17 or 19 rooms in the Dreamcatcher. But we always felt there's movement around us of other people, but we always had our space. There's indoor and outdoor space. There's tons of nooks to write in, both public, and then every room has a hammock, and almost every room has a writing desk in it or some place, to write in it, besides the bed, which is one of my favorite places to write, actually. Okay. So anyway, that's my curated spot. That is the Dreamcatcher. So the purpose of the Spacious Writing Retreat is to help you develop your skills around writing for publication. So I know that all of these things that I've said, that I just said in the last couple minutes sound like a vacation, but I don't want you to get it wrong. A writing retreat is not a vacation, although it should be restful and restorative. A writing retreat is for you to get better at writing so that you can publish. This is not with any pressure. And for all the reasons I listed in this long podcast episode now, you don't really have to do much except come on the retreat in order to get the benefit to your writing. But really, the purpose is not just to hang out and have a nice time, although you will do that. The purpose is that you get your writing for publication, you work on your writing for publication, and you get better at writing for publication for all the reasons that, I just explained the role of retreats, right? The tool that we're using in order to accomplish this is you are going to experience on the Spacious Retreat writing without distractions. Okay, so the key thing that I'm emphasizing here is on the Spacious Retreat, you will have writing without distractions. Now, some of you are thinking, the beach is 100 feet away. I'm going to be distracted. Or Old San Juan is like a 10-minute cab ride away. I'm going to be distracted. But actually, I'll use the word oasis again, I guess. The Dreamcatcher is like this little beautiful oasis in a neighborhood. If it's inside a neighborhood. So could you walk to an interesting place to eat or take an Uber to a fancy seaside bar in a big hotel in Condado? You could. Could you take an Uber down into Old San Juan and tour the historic fort? Yes. But you might do those things, right? As part of the ebb and flow of the retreat where you get to, both enjoy yourself and relax and recharge and work on your writing. But don't worry. It's not like the bar is outside the door or there's a party right outside the door. It's a very, very peaceful place, though it's close to things. When we go to the beach, like a lot of times I'll go and just take a walk on the beach. The surf can be a little rough at Ocean Park, though I've been swimming every time I went. You just have to be a little careful. But it's never has called to me like, oh, come waste your day on the beach or anything like that. A day on the beach would never be a waste, but you get what I'm saying. So I'm saying that this retreat is going to offer you 5 days of writing without distraction. And it is like we will be together. We have this light structure so that we meet in the mornings and over lunch. We have these times to come together and then flow apart. I really think of it as ebbs and flows and space, right? Like, let's get together. Let's create some bookends on our morning writing time by having breakfast together and lunch together. Have a group coaching session over lunch and then another writing session in the afternoon. You can write in your room. You can write together with people, like a co-writing session at the table. One morning or afternoon, you might decide to pull me out for a one-on-one. So you are writing without distractions. The promise of the retreat, and I debated this, but I'm just going to say it because I actually think it's totally possible. I mean, it is possible. You can finish your summer writing project in 5 undistracted days. That's the promise of Spacious. You will finish your summer writing project in 5 undistracted days. Think about it. Right now, it's March or whenever this episode is coming out. Is it February? Whenever it is, when this episode comes out. Right now, I bet you know what you want your summer writing project to be. You know it right now. So think about how would you like to finish that in 5 days so that you knew like that you have the writing retreat scheduled. So you have the time to do it. And then you wouldn't have to worry about it all summer. You know what I mean? Because you held this spot for finishing that writing project. Or you start that summer writing project in May and the beginning of the summer, and you know that you're going to be able to take it over the finish line and submit in July during the retreat. That is indeed what people did while we were there last year. There's a kind of other things that will happen to you or could happen to you on the retreat. You might just fall in love with your writing again. You might be able to like tap that centered, grounded feeling by finishing your writing project, maybe clearing some other things off of your list so that you go into the new semester, the next academic year, feeling centered and grounded. Because of the spaciousness of the days and the time you're going to be able to work without overwhelm. Like imagine that feeling. Like what would it be like to not just work 1 to 2 hours a week, once or twice a week, but to have these longer stretches of working on one project. I think that you can make more progress in 5 days than you've made all year. I'm just going to say it. It's possible. It's possible. So in the end, what I want to say to wrap this now too long episode is come to Spacious. Let us take care of you so that you can take care of your writing. I'm going to leave a link in the show notes with all the information. I will say this. I don't have publicly on my website anything about this retreat. And that is partially on purpose, although we will be adding it after we get through this year's retreat. We will be adding a page on our website about Spacious. The reason it's not there is that last year it was an experiment. Last year it was like me getting up the confidence to put on a writing retreat after all the pandemic years. It went great. So that's why I feel confident in doing one again in July. And I don't know in 2025, where we'll do our retreat. I don't know what it will be like. I do think it will still be spacious, like that will be the theme, and the same kind of experience is what I'm trying to create. But for this year, I'm very excited to invite you to our Spacious Retreat. Now, let me say a couple things before I close. We already have 4 spots sold. We are estimating 10 people. So that means 6 spots left. So check out the information sheet. It's a Google Doc. Okay. So you're going to click on the link in the show notes. It's going to take you to a Google Doc. Read everything, scroll to the links that say enroll here to enroll. If you have any questions, just pop us an email. If you're on my email list, which you can subscribe to my email list on our website. The email list is called In the Pipeline, and it's an email newsletter. So if you go to scholarsvoice.org, you can scroll to the bottom of any page and find the little form to submit to get on our email list. If you haven't done that, you should. And we'll be emailing everybody about Spacious. So I hope that this was helpful. I hope you come see me in Puerto Rico, please. I would love to meet you in person. It's really going to be an amazing 5 days. 5 undistracted days. All right, everyone. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.
Thank you so much for spending your valuable time supporting yourself and your writing by listening to this episode. If you like what you heard today, the best way to say thank you is to hop on over to Apple iTunes and write an honest review. The more reviews, the more amazing academic women and non-binary people will find this podcast. So go write one now.